Hey guys, it's Kayla and welcome back to my channel. So it's New Year's Eve and I thought it was the perfect time to talk about the books that I absolutely loved in 2020. So here is my top 5 favorite books of 2020 with a special mention. And I feel like this is more exciting for me because I had a lot more books that I really enjoyed this year compared to the books that I really didn't like, which is good. It's a good thing that I liked more than I didn't like. The special mention book I have is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I absolutely loved this book. It was so much fun. It was so romantic and sexy and I loved it. So quick rundown of Birthday Girl. Basically our main character moves in with her boyfriend and his dad, and she slowly develops an attraction and feelings towards her boyfriend's dad. And her boyfriend is a piece of shit anyway, so she breaks up with him, but then, you know, naturally gonna get it on with the dad. But it's great. Like, I highly recommend this if you're looking for some really decent smut. And I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it because of like the older guy romance, but it was great. I really liked it. And it's not like he was too old. Like, I think she was only 19, 20 or something like that, and he was in his 30s. So there wasn't much of an age difference, but it was still really good. I really enjoyed it and highly recommend it. Now we'll move on to my top 5 favorite books of the year. The first one, and one of the first really amazing books that I read at the beginning of the year, was Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. There are people who hate this and people who love this. There are people who hate Sarah J. Maas and people who love Sarah J. Maas. I am sort of in the middle. I don't know, like, if I'll continue reading any of her books. Like, I love her. She's great. She's a beautiful person, but I feel like she uses the same formula in her books. So that's why I've been putting off continuing with the Throne of Glass series. I've only read the first 2 and haven't continued because it's no longer the assassin story that I originally wanted it to be. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue. I really loved this. It was different. It still had the fae and like the magic and possibly soulmate type vibes in it, but it was honestly so good. And I loved that it had like a modern type setting but also in a fantasy world. And I don't know, it just had a different feeling to it than her other series, and I loved it so much. So if you don't know what this is about, we follow Bryce, who is like this very outgoing, extroverted party type girl, and she is part fae, part human. I don't want to say anything more because I don't want to spoil anybody. Like, I feel like if you read the blurb of this, you're gonna get spoiled anyway. So maybe I'll just like leave it at that. But basically, yeah, it's like an adult fantasy following Bryce as a half human, half fae who helps the like police force track down a killer who is like repeating crimes. And yeah, it's really good. I love it. I love the friendship. I love the romance. And I also love that it's not fully romance based as well, because as we know, Sarah J. Maas likes to toss up the romances and give you a little bit of drama and throw in all these different obstacles. But this was really good without being solely romance focused, and I really loved it. Definitely was the first book that really just got me. I cried, I laughed, I nearly threw my book at the wall. It was a ride and I loved it. The next one I have that has really influenced pretty much the whole second half of the year, and that is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I've wanted to read this one for ages, and for some reason I just kept putting it off. But oh my god, I am so glad I did, because I am now having a growing obsession with Vikings and all things Norse mythology related. So this is essentially Neil Gaiman's take on a bunch of different Norse mythology stories. So following the stories of Loki, Thor, Odin, Freya, the gods of Asgard. And there's some really good stories in here that I cackled at. I just thought it was really good, and it just makes me want to learn more about Norse mythology because it's so interesting, and I don't know, there's just something about it that I really love. It's also been an influence of me wanting to learn more about Vikings, and it's helped by the fact that me and Brad are actually watching Vikings, a TV show, and I've also been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So yeah, the whole second half of 2020 has literally been me with Norse mythology and Vikings, and I am loving it. I really, really love this. I really want to get more Norse mythology stories because I think they are fantastic and really, really good fun to read. The next one I have is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. And I tell you what, again, the whole second half of the year has been majorly influenced by Christina Lauren. I read her Beautiful Bastard series about 4 years ago, and I absolutely loved it when I first read it. But these other books that I have read this year have just blown my mind, and I love them so much more than the Beautiful Bastard series. They have so much more depth, so much more story, such better characters. I love them. And The Unhoneymooners was legit at the top of this list. Like, it was my number one favorite book of the year until one of the other books overtook it, but we'll get to that in a minute. But I really love this. It was literally like a proper romantic comedy, except I was reading it rather than watching it. And I'm a sucker for a good romantic comedy. Like, if I don't know what to watch, majority of the time I will go back to a good old romantic comedy like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Never Been Kissed. Can't forget He's Just Not That Into You. That is one of my favorites. I absolutely love that one. It is so good because it follows multiple different stories. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Sorry, I had to stop that for a second because my pizza had arrived. But what was I going on about? The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. So this one follows our two main characters who get thrown together because they both contract food poisoning at a mutual friend's wedding. And they end up going on a honeymoon because the bride and groom aren't able to because they are sick and they don't want to lose this honeymoon that they won. And because they're the only ones that aren't sick, they take up on the offer and end up going on this amazing free trip. But of course they come across some obstacles and they end up having to pretend that they are married. So it's one of those typical fake marriage tropes, but I am a sucker for that now. Like, I love it so much. And we get to watch them fall for each other and the random ridiculous situations that they get themselves into where they are forced to pretend that they are married. And it's just so good. And I think the thing I love about Christina Lauren's books is that it's not just typical romantic comedy. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of like setbacks, and it's just, she does them so well. So the next one on this list is another Christina Lauren book, and possibly my most favorite Christina Lauren book and the most favorite book of the year, and that was Love and Other Words. It knocked The Unhoneymooners out of the running because the more I thought about it, the more I realized this book made me sob like a little bitch, and of course it had to go at the top. It had to be the number one book of the year. A book that can break my heart so much like that definitely is going at the top. So this one follows our main characters who reconnect after a decade of not speaking. They originally were in a relationship before when they were younger. They knew each other as kids, and then they grew up and eventually had feelings for one another and became boyfriend and girlfriend, and then something happened that caused them to not speak to one another for a whole decade. And then when they finally meet up again, they sort of rekindle the feelings that they had, and they trying to adjust to each other's new lives and the things that they have been up to in the last 10 years, and trying to work out what the hell happened in the 10 years to stop them from talking. It is such a great book, and I didn't know I was going to love it as much as I did because I'm not usually the biggest fan of second chance romances. Like, it's not the thing that I gravitate towards, but I loved this. If you watch one of my reading vlogs, I might link it if I remember because I usually forget, but I'll try and link the reading vlog where my reaction after reading it. I was heartbroken and emotional, and I just didn't know what to do. I loved it so much. And the last book on this list, my most recent read, that was one of my favorite books of the year, and that was The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. You've probably already heard about this on Instagram and YouTube and whatever other book platforms there are, because these books are currently super popular, or they have been during the last half of 2020. And I can see why. I really want to read The Switch. That's my next one that I want to read, but this one was so good. We follow Tiffy and Leon, who become roommates, but they don't see each other and they only share one bed. I mean, the whole one bed trope is just fantastic. But Tiffy works your usual 9-to-5 job Monday to Friday during the week, and Leon works pretty much night shifts and then he's away on the weekends. So they really don't see each other. They don't sleep with one another. They just gradually leave each other notes and like random little things, food or whatever else. And of course, we know that they're going to develop feelings for one another, but it's just a journey, and I love it. And I love both Leon and Tiffy. They are amazing characters. It was such a good read, so entertaining, and it dealt with some heavy topics as well. One of the trigger warnings is definitely going to be emotional abuse, just in case you want to read this and that's a trigger for you. It's also a real easy read as well, super quick. I loved it so much. Well, there you go, guys. Those are my top 5 favorite books of 2020. Let me know what your favorite book of the year was. I would love to know. I'd love to know if any of these made your list as well. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, the usual stuff, and I will see you in the next video and the next year, which it'll probably be the next year by the time I get around to editing this video, which will probably be tomorrow, maybe. I don't know. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!